Defendant will rise, face the jury, and hearken to its verdicts.
State of Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse. As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled? No. Okay. Okay, folks, you're...
Unmute myself and
warms even my cold black heart.
right. As you all might have heard recently, ever since the last episode of Strike Force, Kyle Rittenhouse is officially not guilty on all charges, including the gun charge that actually got fully dropped a few days before the jury proceedings. And yeah, I gotta say that frontal view of Kyle's face, his reaction there, that is like a better view of capturing his emotion from that moment, that sense of relief that he gets, you know?
Yeah, my only regret is there's no videos of Gage Grossface, his reaction to hearing the verdict. I would love to see it, God.
Right. And so, yes.
Sadly, that dipshit's Twitter has been completely silenced since the verdict. During the trial, he was mouthing off like a moron, but since the verdict, dead silence, no posts.
Right. So, yes, we are here to talk a little bit about the, well, not so much the Kyle Rittenhouse story itself, as we have talked about that pretty much an ad nauseum over at Loudmouth Reviews' channel, the live stream that he did celebrating the verdict, and might actually go ahead and link that down in the description box in post of this live stream once we're done. If you want to like hear the full commentary from really all of us about that subject, well then go ahead and watch that one. But this one, I'm not so much going to be talking about Kyle Rittenhouse himself, or at least I don't plan to anyways. Instead, I'm going to be talking about one specific facet of Kyle Rittenhouse that will lead us into the next story. And that is, if he were black argument. As I came across this specific...
Honestly, I don't think any kind of logical refutation to that is really needed, because the people who make that argument, they don't really believe it. They're all liars, in my opinion.
Right.
We assume... Basically, refuting them assumes that they're making good faith arguments, and they're not. They're malicious, evil liars, all of them.
I will say that of the people in the upper echelons of the leftosphere, but I don't know about the dumber ones, quite frankly. The ones that might be more the average Joes, more just ignorant and completely, like, careless about the whole story. They might even just vaguely...
The Cenk Uyghurs of the world, the Rachel Maddows, the Brian Stelters, they know they're lying.
Of course. Yeah, sure. I have no doubt about it. They probably would like it if at least no right-winger, anyways, black or white, was able to practice their right to self-defense.
And that's what this case is about. It was about trying to disarm and remove all our right to self-defense.
Right.
And keep in mind how sinister that is. What is the biggest difference between living as a free man and living as a slave? The right to self-defense.
I believe that
defend yourself when attacked is the big difference between those two states.
Is that like a famous quote from a philosopher or something, Loudmouth?
Yes, famous philosopher known as Loudmouth Reviews, who has a channel on YouTube. Yeah, but there is an old saying also, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Judged by 12 than carried by 6. Oh, yeah, okay, judged by 12 as in if you end up having to defend yourself and those 12 people, they had their heartstrings pulled by the people that you had to defend yourself from, as opposed to end up letting that person kill you and you be carried by 6 in a casket. I got you.
Carried by 6 in a casket, yes, which is where Kyle Rittenhouse would be had he not exercised lethal force on the disgusting pedophile, the woman beater, and that
Burglar.
what was the gauge's crime? I think he was a burglar or some shit.
Yeah, he was a burglar, like I said.
Yeah, he also hit his grandma because he's a fucking psychopathic dipshit.
Really? Yeah, I could not ever imagine hitting one of my grandmas. Like, what gives him the idea? I probably don't even want to know. Why do I ask that? So,
because he's a psychopath and a moron.
Yes, and a liar too, for that matter.
Yeah, he's also a lying liar, no question.
So one of the specific memes that I saw shared on Facebook, just to quote verbatim, let's be clear, if a black 17-year-old had crossed state lines to arm himself with
state lines!
State lines! Right, I forgot to put in the Anna Kasparian impersonation. Let me start over for that. Let's be clear, if a black 17-year-old had crossed state lines to arm himself with an illegally acquired assault rifle, attended a MAGA rally, picked a fight and shot 3 people, killing 2 of them, the trial would simply be a formality. He'd be in prison for life. Now, keep that in mind.
Because there was one, what is it, kind of like these black nationalists, I think it was in Georgia, and they did this entire rally walking through a town heavily armed with weapons, and no one came out and attacked them. So they were allowed to brandish their weapons throughout the day, and nobody shot them. Oh, I take that back. One of them was shot, but it was by one of his own dudes who let off the gun by accident and shot another guy in his line because he's a moron.
Wow. Oops.
Oops. Whoopsies.
Yep. So, keep that in mind. He'd be in prison for life. That's a key word right there, referring, of course, to Kyle Rittenhouse, as there's a picture of him right there. So that brings us to the next story that we're going to be talking about, and that is Andrew Coffey IV. Of course, we made reference to him in Loudmouth's live stream last Saturday. Yeah, last Saturday. But here I just want to go a little bit more in depth about him. So there is one difference between Andrew Coffey and Kyle Rittenhouse, in that with Andrew Coffey's case, he legitimately, at least by the letter of the law, should not have been possessing the gun, whereas Kyle Rittenhouse got off on a technicality of how much longer his gun was, that he was allowed to have it even for his age. Andrew Coffey was a felon, and obviously I think that maybe there should be some more leniency even for felons to eventually get back their gun rights. I've become increasingly more libertarian on that front. I don't know about a fresh felon, but nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. And I think he was also dealing in drugs, or certainly by my research, his dad was. That was what the original arrest warrant was for. I think
there was some drug raid on his house or something.
Yeah.
And you can if you are in that trade though, starting to shoot and someone breaks through your door kind of makes sense, because from what I hear, a lot of them have a fear that someone will bust in and whack them, like a criminal rival of theirs. So they're always on edge they're always sleeping with their gun next to them because they're always afraid someone's gonna bust in and whack them.
That's sad.
That's the life you choose when you get into that business, man.
That's kind of a sad existence. And I also want to put forth that in spite of whatever charges that he might get, or his dad, as his dad was also arrested for drug dealing. I think they were both in association with each other in their drug dealing business. And as libertarians, we think that this is ultimately a victimless crime, and you should not really get jail time for that. But talking specifically about the self-defense case being made here, from Andrew Coffey as to why that he had originally shot the police when he had heard that they were like busting in his house. And that is where the similarity is between this guy and Kyle Rittenhouse. So opening up, you got an example here of a black guy who is ultimately not getting life in prison by the end of this because of a self-defense or a supposed murder charge that was really a self-defense case.
And if anything, Kyle Rittenhouse's claim to self-defense is much stronger than this guy's.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made there because with Kyle Rittenhouse, he knew more beyond the shadow of a doubt than Andrew Coffey as to who his assailants were. Andrew Coffey did not exactly know who was breaking in his house. He had just woken up of when that he had heard somebody breaking into his house.
I mean, maybe he's telling the truth, maybe he's not. We don't really know for sure.
Sure. But for the sake of argument, to give him the benefit of doubt, okay, maybe he did not know that it was really the police that were breaking in. And really, his murder charge is attempted murder on a police officer. And for some reason, he is also getting an air quotes murder charge for the fact that his own girlfriend ended up shot dead by the police that he was repelling against with his own firearm, which I do not remember what the exact term was that he was getting charged for his own girlfriend's death, but I just know that it was something along the lines within the terminology of murder. And I do not care of where that you are when it comes to the issue of criminology or police reform. That's retarded. This guy was not responsible. He did not shoot the bullet that ended up killing his girlfriend. So why is he getting a murder charge in the first place for somebody else shooting his girlfriend?
Shootout with the police, and they do have to return fire, so it does kind of make sense. I don't know if that'd be murder, but it would definitely be like reckless endangerment for sure.
Sure. I mean, if he was to get a charge, that would be a more accurate charge. But yeah, my point is still that murder doesn't seem to be anywhere even near applicable to Andrew Coffey.
It's certainly not first degree murder. Certainly not.
Yeah. So he's getting off pretty much scot-free on those charges. There is a ruling yet to be made as to how long that he is going to be in prison for convicted felon possession of a firearm, but that still ultimately by the end doesn't mean that he is getting life in prison. And in fact, like I said, he's getting no charges at all for that. So to say that he is just that if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, he would end up getting life in prison, that's just stupid. It's retarded. As Andrew Coffey is,
and that's why it's so stupid that I have to believe that most of the people making these shitty arguments don't believe them, because I don't know how anyone can look at all the countless examples we have proving otherwise and still make these idiotic claims.
Possibly
every American has the right to self-defense. That is the most essential human right that you have. And if Kyle Rittenhouse's case wasn't self-defense, nothing is self-defense. It's that simple.
Possibly a contribution as to why people are spouting this ignorant and frankly stupid rhetoric is because it does not get reported as much. The stories of black people successfully self-defending themselves or other people from aggressors. And that is really the other side of this story. Is I saw the memes being shared around on Facebook by all my friends talking about how Andrew Coffey is not getting reported, whereas the media is all focused on Kyle Rittenhouse. So it kind of poses the question, why is that? I think that the left mainstream media and just leftists in general within media, the reason why they are not reporting it is because they want to deceitfully divide the American people based on race. Kyle Rittenhouse, in spite of being some kind of Hispanic, either Puerto Rican or Cuban or something like that, he still looks pretty pasty. So they're going to say if he was black, he would really not get away with self-defense.
Yeah, it's to create chaos within the country. It benefits the upper class because if lower class people of different races are fighting each other, then the upper classes can kind of profit off of the division. It also benefits the CCP, who of course they often pump divisive propaganda, and they've been doing it since the 60s. Like Chairman Mao was a big supporter of the Black Panthers, for example. They do it because having different groups of Americans fight each other makes the country less united and thus less strong against them. And also, they can use it as a dumbass a way of deflecting from their own human rights atrocities. Oh, who are you to tell us we can't genocide the Uyghurs or conquer Taiwan? You have so much racism in your country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's two things. One, it's foreign influence, mostly from China, but other foreign influence as well. But not all of it's foreign. A lot of it is simply the very unscrupulous members of the upper class within our own country.
Right. And I think that the reason why this story is not getting as reported as much on the right. I mean, it's being shared around on Facebook memes within right-wing circles, but I haven't heard of any mainstream right-wing pundits reporting about this. Have you, Loudmouth?
It's mostly just cited to refute the morons who are like, "Oh, Rittenhouse were blow, he would have been convicted," this is just kind of a convenient example of like, nope, that's not true. You're a liar if you say that. You're a moron.
Yeah, it's right-wing keyboard warriors attacking left-wing keyboard warriors with this story by saying, no, there is no if he were black argument with Kyle Rittenhouse. And really, I think the reason why this story hasn't made it more mainstream within right-wing circles is primarily because marijuana, quite frankly, is not that popular within conservative circles. And this is like involving drugs, and maybe that's the reason why that a whole lot of them are apathetic about it. Now,
I mean, cases like this happen all the time. That's the thing. People claim self-defense and get off of murder charges all the time, white and black. It happens all the time. What made the Kyle Rittenhouse story unique was just even a few years ago that he wouldn't have even been charged with video evidence proving self-defense the way he had. Usually when someone claims self-defense, there's usually not a video of it. Whereas this, we had like at multiple different angles absolutely proving that the people he shot attacked him, and he was still charged for reasons that are beyond me.
Right, and I guess to sort of talk about the details of the Andrew Coffey story, as I haven't mentioned those yet, it was nighttime of when the police had an arrest warrant for Andrew Coffey, and I think the Coffey family in general, because it was his dad, who's also named Andrew Coffey. Andrew Coffey III, he got arrested on the spot, and then the police broke in and started making noise in Andrew Coffey IV's house, and he awakened, not hearing the announcement that it was the police, and thinking that maybe, like Loudmouth said earlier, maybe it was just a rival drug dealer or some other malicious actor like that trying to kill him, and he wasn't going to take any chances, so he just opened fire on what he did not think was a cop, and his girlfriend ended up getting caught in the crossfire, kind of in the same way of Breonna Taylor.
The incidents are very similar.
Yeah. And he ended up getting charged for his own girlfriend's death, even though he wasn't the one who shot the bullet that got into her. But so there was like there was plenty of ignorance on both sides, I think. Well, primarily with Andrew Coffey, but reasonable and understandable ignorance, in my opinion. And the police, I'm not going to entirely fault the police for retaliating, in the same way that a lot of people on the right are saying that neither the police nor what's-his-face, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, could be faulted, because neither party were fully aware of each other's actions, or one side wasn't even aware of what the other party was. Like,
Castle Doctrine was what spared Taylor's boyfriend from getting any criminal charges for firing. Technically, right. You have a right to fire at someone for breaking into your home. That is a constitutionally protected right. The only way you could do otherwise is you would have to prove that he was lying when he said he didn't know they were cops. How do you prove that in court? You can't.
Yeah.
So therefore, under Castle Doctrine, they couldn't really charge him with anything.
And that's another aspect of this story right here, is that Castle Doctrine was almost his right Andrew Coffey's right to castle doctrine almost got taken away from him by, I can't remember who it was exactly. The articles I have in the description box below if you all want to read it yourself. But somebody tried to take away his appeal to castle doctrine, and then another person went back and gave back his right to castle doctrine, so that gave him a little bit more leverage to get himself out of a murder charge. So I say, good on Andrew Coffey, ultimately, for preserving, for getting out of a murder charge, and, you know, making an appeal to self-defense. And I gotta say, to everybody who is, again, trying to race bait the story of of Kyle Rittenhouse, and say if he were black, he would be arrested for life or in jail for life argument, it's stupid. And this story right here is just an example of that stupidity.
And there
Sorry,
are many,
but not
many,
sorry.
many other examples you can cite as well. Well, of course, castle doctrine doesn't apply with the Rittenhouse case because he was nowhere near his home. The castle doctrine specifically refers to your ability to protect your home or property.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
So with him, it was just general self-defense because he had to show that he had a reasonable fear that the person attacking him would do him bodily harm, which he absolutely did. Because we have footage that the first guy was a crazy pedophile psycho who was wielding a chain trying to kill him. Second guy was a lunatic who whacked him with a skateboard, which is a lethal weapon. And the third guy had a freaking pistol on him and pointed it at the kid. So all three people gave him more than enough reason to reasonably fear his life.
Right. And so for any of y'all who are watching this live stream right now, don't forget to hit that like button. It will help in the algorithm for this live stream to reach further. So, and with that said, that is about all that I want to say about the whole Andrew Coffey story. There wasn't that much more to say about it. Just there's some things that I wanted to go a little bit more in depth than we did on Loudmouth's live stream. But to get on with the next story, Ghislaine Maxwell. A lot of memes on Facebook are also going around talking about as to how that Kyle Rittenhouse is a distraction from Ghislaine Maxwell, and
which may well be true, actually.
Perhaps, and talking about how much live stream the trial was for Kyle Rittenhouse, and it's looking as if Ghislaine Maxwell's trial is not going to be a live stream, but it hasn't even started yet.
Federal court, and they don't allow cameras there, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, and plus it hasn't even quite started yet, so that is yet to be proven. And I think I wish I actually pulled up this article, but I think I saw in the title of one of the articles in my research that the judge is trying to get in some live streaming technology, saying that the people have the right to know of what is going on with the trial. But nonetheless, I said kind of in response that both should be streamed appropriately and covered as, you know, as much as the other appropriately. And so,
yeah, you could argue this one is also incredibly important because she may have ties to powerful people. I'm one of the many, many, many people, and I think it goes without saying, who doesn't really buy that Epstein offed himself. I think someone powerful took him out before he could testify against him.
So, to get on with the articles here, as I have, sadly enough, sorry people, I haven't pre-read the articles about Ghislaine Maxwell, but this from the New York Post. Judge in Ghislaine Maxwell trial questioning if evidence from accuser can be used. That is interesting. Now, this is from November 9th, 2021, so it's a little old, but that kind of seems just a little bit sus, just on the surface of it. So let's actually dig in to see what the details are. The judge in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial is questioning whether one of the teen accusers can testify as a victim because she was not a minor when she was allegedly abused, according to court filings. What?
Wait, read that again? What?
The judge in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial is questioning whether one of the teen accusers can testify as a quote-unquote victim because she was not a minor when she was allegedly abused, according to court filings.
Adults can be still abused in certain ways. Even if she wasn't a minor, I don't see how that would mean that she can't testify.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And is there even really a technical difference between a teenager and a minor?
I mean, minor is kind of encompassing anyone under the age of 18.
Okay. Maybe. Okay, so there is that definition, but maybe somebody can make the argument that a minor is somebody who is like preteen and younger. Maybe. But even a teenager is still considerably underage for any kind of sexual activity, and definitely is a victim of the trafficking side of this, so it doesn't matter.
Right,
either way.
A grown adult and still be a victim of abuse and trafficking, so I don't even understand this argument.
Right. The unidentified accuser 3 had previously alleged that Maxwell had recruited her in London in 1994 to massage pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, knowing he'd force her to have sex, the indictment said. But the accused
1994, so she'd be like, she'd probably be in her 40s now, right? Or late 30s?
30s, 40s, something like that.
Yeah.
But the accuser was 17 at the time, a year above the UK's age of consent of 16, according to a motion to dismiss her testimony filed by Maxwell's legal team late last month. So
the age of consent there's about that.
So if I was to like assume the best just by going off of that paragraph alone, so maybe, big fat maybe, you could say that they are not pedophilic sex traffickers, but they are still sex traffickers, you fuck.
Right.
She also could not prove that she was underage when she traveled to the U.S. and allegedly engaged in sex acts with Epstein, the filing insisted. There's no evidence that she was a minor when any of the alleged sex acts took place, insisted attorneys for Maxwell. If true, that means that any sex acts that occurred were lawful, Maxwell's attorneys insisted in the October 29th filing. But not the trafficking, not the kidnapping, though.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? These are defense attorneys. They are like, they are taught to grasp at any little bit of straw that they can to diminish the guilty verdict as much as possible, even if it's just a little bit of their client, of the defendant.
Yeah, that is their job.
Yeah.
And they do a job that is vital. I mean, every person should be entitled to stringent defense. Even if they are guilty, they still should be entitled to that.
Yeah. Despite conceding, the accuser insisted she was sexually abused by the late pedophile. Referring to Epstein, I presume.
Yeah.
Maxwell's team is seeking to completely dismiss her evidence, or at least bar any suggestion that she was a minor who suffered sexual abuse. Judge Allison Nathan last Wednesday asked the government to provide its position as to whether alleged victim 3 could be considered a victim of the crimes charged in the indictment for any legal purpose. The prosecution's response does not address this issue, Nathan wrote in an update. Excuse me. While acknowledging that the court's request may have been unclear, the government is now ordered to file a supplemental letter responsive to the court's question, she wrote. For the sake of clarity, the government is directed to state its position as to whether this anticipated witness could be deemed a victim of any of the crimes charged in the indictment for any legal purpose, her order stated. It was not immediately clear if the response was filed as of Tuesday morning. The trial is scheduled to start in weeks, on November 29th. So, yeah, that's a little under a week from now, as it is the 23rd right now. The accuser was one of 4 in the indictment, accusing well-connected British media heiress Maxwell of grooming and procuring underage girls for Epstein. She was not named in the filings, but has alleged that Maxwell introduced her to Epstein, knowing that Epstein would engage in sex acts. During those massages, Epstein sexually abused her, the indictment said. However, in their filing, Maxwell's legal team said that her claim of sexual abuse is not because she was underage and incapable of consent by law, but because her subjective experience of these indictments was that they were traumatic, exploitative, and abusive. Okay. Still pretty fucked up. If accuser 3 is allowed to testify that she felt she was sexually abused by Epstein, the jury will naturally assume that the alleged sex acts were illegal when they were not, the lawyers insisted. But they were, in spite of her still being technically over the age of consent, or within the age of consent, excuse me. Maxwell has been locked up in a notorious Brooklyn jail for more than a year awaiting her day in court. She has pleaded not guilty and fought unsuccessfully several times to be released on bond pending trial. Epstein killed himself in a lower Manhattan jail cell after he was arrested for trafficking in 2019. Right, yeah. New York Post. Okay. I thought that maybe there's an argument to be made that New York Post had been getting increasingly better since that they have gone ahead and reporting on the Hunter Biden story, but it seems that they're getting back into that slump by saying, "Oh yeah, Epstein did kill himself."
Yeah. Do you think Epstein killed himself last soccer? Did you? Do you? Yeah.
By the way, for anybody who obviously isn't able to see because this is on OBS and not StreamYard, Loudmouth is talking to his pet cat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to read up on the chat here a little bit. Not much to read before we continue. JC Amatar says, by the way, the reason state media focused so much on the Rittenhouse trial was to act as a smokescreen to cover up the fact that the Maxwell trial was happening. Yep.
Yeah.
Like we said. Someone 1000 says, so wouldn't an 18-year-old be considered an adult and a teenager along with a 19-year-old?
I mean, it's just a matter of if they're above the age of consent, you know?
You know, that is kind of weird. Someone 1000. I mean, it's kind of it does raise the question that if, say, you were like a 25-year-old who started dating an 18 or 19-year-old, that people would start questioning what was your past before you officially started dating with your date. But at the same time, it is still technically legal, so it is kind of a murky, weird time for adulthood, the ages of 18 and 19. But anyway, someone also says, I believe that Epstein killed himself just as much as I trust the government with my health, right? So,
yeah, I remember there was a great church sign that said, Jesus died for you and your sins, unlike Jeffrey Epstein, who did not kill himself.
Right?
I love that.
So, I'm going to go ahead and read this article right here, actually, because that last one I'm talking about the plea deal that Maxwell tried to get herself on. So, next article from New York Post, still no plea deal for Ghislaine Maxwell, who heads to trial next week. She has info on any powerful people within the United States government. I say offer her a plea deal in exchange for the goods. You mean all the files that she might have on all the other elitists that are doing pedophilic type shit? Possibly. I mean, who knows? I think she does know. I think she does know something. Interesting. You two cut that out. Oh, these fucking cats! I swear to God. Well, that is one way to look at it, definitely, which would be interesting to hear the rest of your commentary as we get through this article. Federal prosecutors on Tuesday said they're still not offering Ghislaine Maxwell a plea deal, paving the way for her long-anticipated sex trafficking trial to begin next week. At Maxwell's final pre-trial hearing in the Manhattan courtroom, where she'll face a jury Monday, Judge Allison Nathan asked prosecutors and her defense attorneys if a plea deal had been offered. None were communicated. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey responded. Comey. Okay, for some reason my brain thought Cuomo for a second there. But anyway, Maxwell was in the courtroom Tuesday exchanging greetings with her team of lawyers and occasionally sipping from a disposable coffee cup as her legal team hashed out her trial logistics with a group of 4 prosecutors. Among the issues raised was that Maxwell's attorneys have subpoenaed a lawyer who represents a victim in the case, identified in the indictment against Maxwell as minor victim number 4. Nathan ordered Maxwell's attorneys to submit briefs about the potential witness and said she would not allow the testimony until she has reviewed the briefing. According to the indictment, Maxwell met the victim when she was 14 years old at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach mansion sometime around 2001. Not creepy at all. And by the way, there's a picture of Donald Trump, Melania, and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Don't know if you see the...
Trump didn't know him, but so did a lot of people. That's the thing. This guy was like connected.
Mm-hmm. You said Trump did or did not know?
Trump knew him. I mean, they're kind of the upper echelon of New York, so they kind of all just knew each other. People like in that upper class.
Gotcha.
That doesn't mean that Trump necessarily was involved in anything illegal. There's no real evidence he was. But just because he knew the guy doesn't mean he knew everything about him.
Right. She then groomed the teen by discussing sexual topics in front of her and being present when the teen was naked in the massage room of Epstein's house, prosecutors charged. Gross. Fucker. Maxwell also sent the teen lingerie and helped arrange appointments for her to give Epstein sexualized massages, according to the indictment. Her attorneys did not discuss why they want the victim's lawyers to testify at the trial. That's disgusting and disturbing shit. The trial is expected to kick off with opening statements on Monday after more than a year of preparation. Maxwell is charged with 6 counts for allegedly procuring underage girls for Epstein to abuse from 1994 through 2004. She's pleaded not guilty and has remained in a Brooklyn federal lockup since her arrest in 2020. Epstein killed himself in a, supposedly anyways, Epstein killed himself in a lower Manhattan jail cell in 2019 after being arrested on sex trafficking charges. Again, repeating that ad nauseum false piece of bullshit. But whatever. At least they're like coming with the full truth as to how that exactly Maxwell groomed children. So, November 17th, 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell, judge, will finish trial despite possible promotion. Actually, I do not know of, well, never mind. Maybe there's some little interesting nuggets of information in this one. The Manhattan federal judge presiding over the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking trial will finish the case even though she may be promoted to a position on a federal appeals court, she said Wednesday. I'll continue to do my day job, which includes presiding over this trial until completion, Judge Allison Nathan said in court Wednesday morning after reports of her possible promotion to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals were published. You know, I got a question for you, Loudmouth. How dangerous do you think this is that this judge is staying as the judge presiding over the court, seeing as to how that she did not allow an accuser to present her case just because on a technicality that she was not under the age of consent?
No, bad kid. No.
Oh, damn it. He's off trying to tend to his cat.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
They were getting in the dog's food. I'm like, no, that ain't for you.
I gotcha. So the question that I was trying to ask right there was this very judge who is insisting to stay on the trial, presiding over the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, is the same judge that is also dismissing evidence from an accuser just because they are technically within the age of consent, barely. So how
are you suggesting the judge might be corrupted?
That's what I'm asking you. Do you think it's very likely?
I don't know. I don't know if I can make that judgment. No pun intended. But I don't know. It is kind of suspicious.
It is a little, which is why maybe it is important to be knowing about this.
Yeah.
She added that she was honored at the possibility to serve on the appeals court. In a statement Tuesday, U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he would recommend Nathan for the appeals court job, calling her an outstanding jurist. Allie Nathan is an outstanding judge for the Southern District of New York and her experience. Legal brilliance, love of the rule of law, and perspective would be invaluable in ensuring the federal judiciary fulfills its obligation to ensure equal justice for all, Schumer said in a statement. Yeah, including accuser number 3, right, guys? Miss Nathan is already an accomplished and widely respected judge in the Southern District of New York and would bring a passion for the rule of law and justice to her post on the Second Circuit, as well as profound integrity, compassion, and expertise, he added. Sure. If appointed by President Biden, Nathan would be the second openly gay woman to serve as a federal appellate judge, Schumer said. Yeah, because I totally need to know of how gay my judges are in order for me to determine if they're a good judge or not.
Yeah, that has no bearing whatsoever on whether they'll judge the case fairly.
Nathan has been quizzing potential jurors for the Maxwell trial about their ability to remain impartial in the high-profile case since Tuesday morning. She'll continue the jury selection process until prosecutors and defense attorneys agree on a dozen panelists and 6 alternates. Maxwell is accused in a 6-count indictment of procuring underage girls for multi-millionaire financier Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse from 1994 to 2004. She's pleaded not guilty. I want to call bullshit. Of course, we have yet to hear the entirety of the trial. So Sentinel 1000 says, well, I feel uncomfortable with dating someone under the age of 20, but to each their own, though. You know what? I'm growing older and older to the point of where that I don't want to date anybody under the age of 20 myself. Or would heavily like to not to, prefer not anyways, steer away from that. Again, it goes back to the age of consent by state and country. LOL, bad kitty, LOL. Oh, the judge be playing Among Us while overseeing cases. That'd be the most unprofessional thing that a judge has done ever since hearing God Bless America from Judge Bruce Schroeder, right? Actually, even more unprofessional.
You're right. It should have been Kid Rock's I Was Born Free.
That would have been even more obnoxious hearing in the trial.
No, that would have been perfect for the Rittenhouse trial. They knocked him down and watched him bleed, but they couldn't keep their chains on him because he was born free. He was born free.
I'll have to check out that song now just because you mentioned it, Loudmouth. So, this is from Yahoo News, or more specifically, Insider. Just Yahoo is the one that is hosting the article. Ghislaine Maxwell is fighting to prevent jurors from seeing a copy of Jeffrey Epstein's little black book at her criminal trial. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So it seems like she is trying to withhold the evidence that everybody wants to know about within this trial. So
withholding evidence. Who does she think she is? A Wisconsin prosecutor?
Worse. She thinks she's one of the global untouchable elite.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't want Jeffrey Epstein's little black book to be shown at her criminal trial. Her lawyers say the book, which lists people said to be connected with the dead pedophile financier, has been tampered with. Prosecutors say they plan to bring a witness who can testify about the contact's book's authenticity. Maybe people should be taking the book with a grain of salt, but it still should be revealed just for the sake of us at least getting a start on the investigation into further pedophilic shit going around the world with the global elite. Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't want jurors to see a copy of the little black book Jeffrey Epstein kept in his mansion that listed contact information for their rich and powerful friends.
That's what I want to see. That's where my interest in this trial is, right there.
It's exactly where everybody's interest is, and yet she's trying to rain on all of our parades, apparently.
No, we need to see that shit. I really want to see it. That's the big plot twist at the end of the movie everyone sticks through for.
Right. In partially redacted court filings from the past several weeks, federal prosecutors and attorneys for Maxwell have duked it out over whether a copy of the book referenced in the filings as Exhibit 52 can be entered into evidence so that portions of it may be shown to jurors at the British socialites sex trafficking trial, which is scheduled to begin with opening statements on Monday. Ms. Maxwell requests that the government be precluded from discussing the book at trial prior to a proper evidentiary foundation being established. Maxwell's lawyers wrote in a court filing, the book, first published online by Gawker in 2015, includes the names and contact information of powerful people, including Donald Trump, Victoria's Secret founder Les Wexner, and Prince Andrew, believed to be friends with the now dead pedophile financier. Many of the people named in the book have said they have no idea how their names ended up in the book. Others, including Trump, Wexner, and Andrew, say they regretted their association with Epstein or had limited interaction with him. Okay, I was about to ask the question, but I guess that kind of answers it right there as to why that people are not exactly questioning that heavily Donald Trump's former associations with Epstein. Could he have possibly gone on the Lolly Express into Epstein's island or whatever? It's because of that statement right there. Others, including Trump, yada yada, say they regretted their association with Epstein or had limited interaction with him. So, Alfredo Rodriguez, who worked as a house manager at Epstein's Palm Beach, Florida mansion between 2004 and 2005, was convicted and sentenced to 18 months in prison in 2010 for trying to sell the book for $50,000 to Brad Edwards, an attorney representing dozens of women who have accused Epstein and Maxwell of sexual misconduct. That's odd. I wonder why exactly he would be doing that. I mean, it seems that he's kind of outing himself right there. Am I wrong, Loudmouth?
Maybe.
The book has been in FBI custody ever since. Prosecutors said in court filings, prosecutors said in court filings.
Well, the FBI has had no time to read it. They're too busy spying on parents who are critical of critical race theory at school board meetings.
Yep. Stop wasting your time.
No time to even read that damn thing.
Yeah. Another digital copy was made public through litigation from Virginia Giuffre. Excuse me. I think that's how you spell that. Giuffre. Let me start that over. Another digital copy was made public through litigation from Virginia Giuffre, a woman who's accused Epstein and Maxwell of misconduct. Rodriguez died in 2015. Attorneys for Maxwell sought to exclude the book as unauthenticated hearsay in a motion filed on November 12th. Maxwell's trial will address charges from federal prosecutors in Manhattan who say that she sex trafficked and sexually abused young girls in concert with Epstein. She's pleaded not guilty to the charges. Maxwell's attorneys say the copy of the book that prosecutors seek to enter into evidence may have been tampered with. The photocopy prosecutors submitted under seal, they say, has unexplained faded marks and photocopies of tabs that suggest that pages have been added, omitted, or altered. There's no evidence to suggest that these documents were created or maintained by anyone, her attorneys wrote. It is entirely probable that whatever the documents are, they were manipulated or manufactured by Mr. Rodriguez in an effort to get a $50,000 payday. Prosecutors argued that they planned to show excerpts from the book itself, not just a photocopy. They also said they want to bring a witness with personal knowledge of the physical book and who worked for Epstein to testify about its authenticity. Employee 1 has examined Government Exhibit 52 in preparation for trial and recognizes it to be the defendant's contact book, copies of which were maintained in Epstein's Palm Beach residence. Among other locations, Employee 1 recognizes the shape, color, and binding of the book and recognizes the formatting and style of the entries as consistent with the manner in which the defendant's book was organized and the way in which entries appeared, prosecutors wrote. Prosecutors also said they plan to bring a witness who will testify that Maxwell and Epstein kept multiple copies of 2 sets of contact books and that written instructions for household staffers reference those books. Rodriguez also said in an affidavit before his death that Epstein's employees maintained the copies of the books, and earlier this year, Insider obtained and verified another copy of the book that Epstein had in 1997. All right. So that's the end of that article, and
but it
very
didn't answer
interesting.
the most important question about this case.
Sorry, what?
I said this article didn't answer the most important question about this case. Which is whether or not Maxwell, while doing sex trafficking, ever crossed state lines.
I was about to ask that question myself. The monster. If she is found out to be done, to have done that, well then I suggest that she gets thrown in jail for the rest of her life, and the key be thrown away. She gets locked away and the key thrown away. Yeah. Absolutely no jury, no hearing.
One time she actually drove between Pennsylvania and Ohio, and that is strictly a crime against humanity right there.
Yep. Did you not know that every time you cross a state line, a puppy dies, Loudmouth?
Oh, I'm aware, yeah.
So you might want to, like...
What monster would do such a thing?
Right? So you might want to... Never mind, I'm not going to say that. What I was about to say was going to be a little bit too fucked up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so... on to the next subject. Talking about Australian fascism, everybody. And more specifically, COVID fascism.
Yeah. North Korea, but with kangaroos, continues to impress, right?
Yep. So this is from zerohedge.com, and I did not actually go looking up this article myself. This was shared on my Discord server from, I believe, JC Armitage. Yeah, it is from JC Armitage. Thank you for sharing this, and a shout out to you, JC, for sharing this. We are getting to this. And the title of the article goes, Australian Army begins transferring COVID positive cases and contacts to quarantine camps. So, the FEMA camps that Alex Jones and so many other Illuminati conspiracy theorists had always warned, apparently is starting to come true.
Yeah.
The Australian Army has begun forcibly removing residents in the Northern Territories to the Howard Springs quarantine camp located in Darwin after 9 new COVID-19 cases were identified in the community of Binjari. The move comes after hard lockdowns were instituted in the communities of both Binjari and nearby Rockhole on Saturday night.
Crikey.
Oh, crikey, mate!
I don't like this shit. They should have, like, all the venomous snakes, like, rise up against these fascists that live in Australia.
Yeah, before the fascists end up feeding the COVID-positive people to the snakes themselves. You know, speaking of...
Maybe the snakes benefit from allowing this fascism to continue.
You know, speaking of coronavirus... it's been a while since we have heard any mass media reporting or anything like that talking about COVID-19, how vaccines are the greatest thing on earth or whatever.
There's still been shit going on. Like, obviously Australia has been completely lost their minds over it. And there's been like a few other like places in China that have locked down over it, but yeah, I don't think the U.S. will tolerate hard lockdowns anymore. I shouldn't be so optimistic. Maybe they will.
Right. But it's just, we've been distracted more with the Kyle Rittenhouse story, and I say that the coverage, I'm not one of those people who thinks that the Kyle Rittenhouse coverage has been too much. I think it has been just the right amount. And even as we speak right now, I think PSA Sitch and Adam Friended are still talking about the one debate that Destiny and Pac-Man did over the subject. Let me see, actually. Are they still live?
What, Destiny debated with David Pac-Man on it?
On the Kyle Rittenhouse subject, and yeah, actually, they're still alive right now and have been for the last almost 5 hours.
More of Vosh saying, submit to the mob.
More like David Pac-Man saying, submit to the mob.
Really? So Pac-Man was crazier than Vosh?
Well, I don't know for certain. I did not actually watch that, but it's just,
I didn't watch it at all, but I did see, like, a big chunk of Vosh's, debate with Destiny on the matter, and Destiny just destroyed him.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed it.
Vosh's arguments were so terrible.
I watched that I think just a few days after that live stream was done, and it was so good. Like, Destiny was all like, fuck the number, forget the number. I would take one body of a self-defender over that of 10 bodies of aggressors. And Sargon of Akkad, as he was watching it with Adam and Sitch, he was all like, yes! He was just so giddy of Destiny giving such a base take, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. If a mob's out to kill you, you keep firing until the threat is neutralized. You do what it takes to defend your life, because it is always better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Is that also another quote that has been invented totally by you?
No, I didn't invent that quote. That quote comes from somewhere. I don't know exactly where.
Okay, but you know, to get back around to the this subject, one other thing but also talking about Destiny, like, as much as I have come to grow to respect Destiny a little bit more and more, one thing that really annoyed the piss out of me is that one debate he had against 3 COVID skeptics, I guess we could call them. And he said in that debate that he does not want people to be running around as biochemical terrorists. So he's a bit of an asshole. He's referring to anybody who refuses to get the vaccine, which is a bit of a dick thing to say. And I'm all like, fuck you, Destiny, as much as I like you on some other subjects.
Destiny is still a leftist. He just occasionally thinks for himself and goes against the mob, which is something so I can have a little bit of respect for the guy.
Right. But it's just retarded. You think that the guy would be smarter than to spout that kind of retardation, because, for one,
He's
nobody
a smart
is...
guy. You can tell he can think his way through quite a bit, usually.
Well, maybe, hopefully, he'll eventually get out of the retardation, but it doesn't make any sense to me at all, because, for one, people who refuse to get the vaccine are not guaranteed to be carrying the virus on them. And 2, you're not guaranteed to kill other people, even if you do have the virus and spread it to other people. So the violence
that's kind of a bad argument, because the argument is whether it increases the risk. You know, obviously wouldn't guarantee it. I don't think anyone would make that. That'd be kind of a straw man to play devil's advocate.
Well, I'm just saying that the violence implication of calling people terrorists for this thing.
Yeah, I don't agree with that with calling them terrorists, but I'm saying that's not a good argument you made.
Well, my point is that because it is not a guarantee, in fact, it's a likability that you'll actually survive. Therefore, the violent side of the word terrorism or terrorist doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I would say terrorism doesn't work because terrorism is intentional violence, like for a political cause or political or religious cause. So right. And obviously carrying around a virus that you don't even know you have is obviously not that.
So it's not that violent to be carrying around the virus, and even if you do end up spreading it to other people, and it's not intentional that people be spreading the virus to other people. It's just that COVID skeptics want the whole politicization of coronavirus to be done. And 3, they aren't wanting to spread around the virus for political reasons. Heck,
a better analogy would be to compare somebody who was spreading COVID with a drunk driver or something who was just kind of not really having any malice but was doing something irresponsible. That'd be a closer metaphor than calling them a terrorist would.
Yeah. And heck, if we since we are on talking about this thing, it'd be a whole lot closer if this thing that I'm about to mention happened, but not even this is happening. The idea of COVID skeptics actually taking up arms against the government or anyone else that wants to take away their freedom. Not even that has happened. That'd be the closest thing to terrorism that Destiny would be justified in calling people terrorists over. But at the same time, it does kind of lead into the question of when does a freedom fighter become a terrorist, and when does a terrorist become a freedom fighter, as far as definitions go?
Yep, and there's no strict definition on that, is there?
Unfortunately. So, technically
it's always entirely subjective.
So on that note, somebody could even technically say that the founding fathers were terrorists in their time.
British Empire, they were?
Yeah, British Empire would call them that, yeah.
What was that Ben Franklin quote? We either hang together or we'll certainly hang separately.
Yeah. So, but in the end, they ended up dying on their own beds instead.
Yeah, if the revolution had failed, and it would have failed without help from the French, then all the founding fathers would have been hanged.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting a little bit off topic. Continuing on, residents of Banjari and Rockall no longer have the 5 reasons to leave their homes, said Northern Territory Chief Minister Michael Gunner, referring to the country's 5 allowable reasons to avoid lockdown: buying food and supplies, exercising for up to 2 hours. 2 hours? Who are you to tell of how long people can exercise? What if they want to go on a 3-hour drive or jog, around the block?
Yeah, this shit is really. Australia is not a liberal democracy anymore. Not with bullshit like this. This really doesn't come across like you're reading something from some communist regime.
Yeah. What if somebody wanted to go on a 4-hour bike ride instead of a 2-hour bike ride? Fuck that shit. Care or caregiving, work or education if it can't be done from home, and to get vaccinated at the nearest possible location. Sounds pretty mundane and boring. Wow. That was depressing. That sounded right out of a dystopian movie handbook. Like I didn't think I'd be seeing this reality right here. And this is taking place in a supposedly Western country or Western world, first world country, you know?
Yeah. Any based right-wing YouTubers in Australia probably are in this camp as we speak. Oh shit.
Right. Unfortunately, I mean, Bearing, if you can hear us, we're sorry, dude.
I hope he's all right and he's not in one of these camps. God damn it! Oh my god.
Yeah, he's had his own share of anti-COVID fascism videos that he's done.
Yeah, like, I hope the Australian government doesn't detain him or some shit, because this shit's scary. This wow, you can't exercise. They're limiting how many hours you can exercise per day. I'd be like, fuck you. I'm a citizen, not a slave.
Yeah. If only they had guns, they could take up arms to this shit.
This is scary shit right here.
Or they can
the stuff I hear coming out of Australia, I just can't. I don't know. I mean, you see shit like that coming from authoritarian regimes throughout the world, but you expect it from them. You know, this is Australia is supposedly not an authoritarian regime, but it's behaving like one.
Mm-hmm. So, they can only leave for medical treatment in an emergency or as required by law. It's highly likely that more residents will be transferred to Howard Springs today, either as positive cases or close contacts, he continued, adding. We have already identified 38 close contacts from Banjari, but that number will go up. Those 38 are being transferred now. Fascist prick. I contacted the Prime Minister last night. We are grateful for the support of about 20 ADF personnel as well as Army trucks to assist with the transfer of positive cases and close contacts and to support the communities. We are doing an assessment today of what extra resources we might need from the feds, and the Prime Minister is ready to help further. I thank him for that. Watch Bernie's tweets. Australia, the Army is now transferring positive COVID cases and contacts in the Northern Territories to quarantine camps by Army truck. So it wasn't a conspiracy theory then. Yeah, martial law in Australia.
Very similar to what to what China did in the early days of the pandemic. I remember when the pandemic was just started, you're seeing all these scary videos of the CCP rounding people up and throwing them in camps. And you're like, God damn, China is scary. Can't happen here, and then it's happening here.
At least in Australia, anyways. I mean, thankfully, it hasn't gotten so bad in America.
West is what I'm saying. It's happening in the West.
Ah, gotcha. So, we're conscious of the fact that this can have some impacts on people's mental health as well as their general well-being. But you obviously don't give a fuck.
Them and deleting them in the camps that might have a bad effect on their mental health. Who could see that coming?
Police Commissioner Jamie Chalkner told NT News. Of note, if anything, I think that the overall damaging of people's mental health countrywide is more damaging at this point than how many people get sick countrywide.
Yeah, 100%.
Of note, the Northern Territories are home to a large percentage of Indigenous Australians, as the Epoch Times' Steve Milne notes. According to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, in 2018 through 19, almost 1 in 5 Indigenous Australians lived in overcrowded dwellings, 18%, compared to 5% of non-Indigenous Australians. Although this percentage has decreased from 27% in 2004, it still met an estimated 145,340 Indigenous Australians were living. Oh no, they meant. My bad. Were living in overcrowded dwellings in 2018 through 19. In addition, the more remote an area, the higher the proportion of Indigenous Australians living in overcrowded dwellings. 26% in remote areas and 51% in very remote areas, compared to 8 and 22% in non-remote areas.
Australia is a very sparsely populated country. Their population's only 29 million people. It's a pretty big country.
Yeah. I mean, their population, it's almost looking by the looks of this that they're even more spread thin than we are here in the United States.
Oh, much more.
And if you go looking at
10 times more.
Yeah, if you go looking at Europe, the population is generally a whole lot more evenly spread out. Like, the cities aren't as densely populated and the rural areas are not as barren as here in the United States. Whereas in the United States, you have the urban areas are more densely populated and the rural areas are a whole lot more barren and stretched thin. Except for maybe in Texas. Texas is probably an exception on that front. Anyway, 5 days ago, NT Senator Malarndirri McCarthy told ABC that overcrowding in Indigenous communities was a massive problem, pointing to the region's second cluster of new infections, which included 9 members of McCarthy's direct family, including her sister, who flew from Catherine to Robinson River while unknowingly bringing COVID-19 with her, per the report. If we could get housing in there right now, I would be pushing that straight away to the federal government and the NT government to work on that. But we obviously need the resources to do so, she said. That's not what these people need. What they need is their freaking freedom. Piss off. Of the 9 new cases in Binjari, 4 are women and 5 are men, including a 78-year-old woman who has been transported to Darwin Hospital. There were 0 new COVID-19 cases reported on Sunday. However, Minister Gunner said he was worried about mingling between households in Binjari and Rockhole, whose populations are around 220 and 130 respectively. On Sunday, Gunner said, yes, these are strong measures, but the threat to lives is extreme. Nice people.
Crikey.
Australia's leaders are dumb and authoritarian. A very bad combo. This is a video that was shared by Justin Hart.
Do you think at all that your rhetoric around calling people anti-vaxxers, some of whom were vaccinated, has had an impact at all on vaccine take-up in parts of the territory?
No, and I'll repeat it. If you are anti-mandate, you are absolutely anti-vax. I don't care what your personal vaccination.
Fuck you, asshole. This new redefining is just for the sake of all these COVID fascists to start, ramping up the division.
Status is, if you support, champion, give a green light, give comfort to, support anybody who argues against the vaccine, you are an anti-vaxxer. Absolutely.
Oh, fuck off.
This guy is saying if you're at all charitable to somebody who's against the mandates, you are an anti-vaxxer yourself? What?
They're guilty of wrongthink.
So even
Send
the people
police after them.
So the people who are pro-mandates can't even be friendly to people who are anti-mandates. That's how extreme this guy is. He's even too extreme for all the normie pro-mandate people. I'm not too fond of all the normie and average Joe pro-mandate people, but this guy makes makes other pro-mandate people look more likable. Look likable by comparison.
The personal vaccination status is utterly irrelevant. If you campaign against the mandate, if you campaign against people being vaccinated in vulnerable settings, teachers in classrooms, I'll be really clear, at that point in time, people were actually supporting the idea of a teacher being unvaccinated in a remote community classroom.
Well, I'm not exactly for campaigning very passionately against people getting vaccinated. I really don't care. I'm not one of those passionate people who's all like, I'm anti-mandate and I'm also anti-voluntary vaccine, but all the same.
With kids who cannot be vaccinated.
I mean, if you want to get vaccinated, well then that's good on you, and I'm not going to alienate you for it. Although, quite honestly, I do have some people in my own personal life who would like to alienate people for even voluntarily getting the vaccine. But that's another story for another time.
Vaccinated. I reject that utterly, and I still reject it. And if you are out there in any way, shape or form campaigning against this mandate, you are absolutely anti-vax. If you say pro-persuasion, stuff it, shove it. We are absolutely going to make sure as many Territorians as possible are vaccinated. That is our best protection against this thing.
Is still a fallacy, right?
Sorry, what?
So are they going with slippery slope still being a fallacy?
I don't know. Sorry, what were you picking up right there? That was a slippery slope implication?
They're kind of slowly expanding the definition of what is anti-vax.
Oh, okay. I now I gotcha. Now I gotcha. I'm gonna rewind that by just a few seconds.
If you say pro-persuasion, stuff it, shove it. We are
pro-persuasion. You cannot do voluntary activism for people to get voluntarily vaccinated. That's not even enough for this guy. He might as well be at, arguing for police squads to go door to door and force the jab in people's arms at that point.
That's coming soon. It seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely going to make sure as many Territorians as possible are vaccinated. That is our best protection against this thing. And if you look at the Doherty modelling that's only come out since, that says if you double dose 80 in remote communities, 5 and up, I think you'll see our vaccine mandate is absolutely crucial to protecting lives, particularly Aboriginal lives.
And if anybody thinks that I'm getting too angry at this, fuck that shit. This guy is getting angry himself. Even before then, I would think that my anger is pretty much justified with this guy's alienation and partisan hackery. Both of our anger is, for that matter, both me and Loudmouth.
And I will never back away from supporting vaccines, and anyone out there who...
Well, then support vaccines. Go for it. But voluntary vaccines, not mandated ones, not mandates in general.
Certainly not wielding people into freaking camps.
Yeah. I mean,
that's insane.
If you are some Ben Shapiro type person in the world, apparently that's not enough for sickos like this. You cannot be pro-voluntary vaccine and anti-mandate at the same time. That's not good enough. You're still a terrible human being and an anti-vaxxer as well.
When it comes for the mandate, you are anti-vax.
What a sick, disturbed individual. That was the end of the clip right there.
I'm not a fan of this guy.
Really not. That was probably about it with the subjects. It's been about an hour and 13 minutes. I'll probably just go ahead and end this live stream early.
What other YouTubers besides Bering that are from Australia that we watch? I'm trying to think. I know Bering obviously, but there's got to be others, right?
I know that Cat Chat, she's not a big YouTuber at all, but she's a fan of the channel, and she's from Australia, and she's fairly right-leaning. Not exactly one of the most passionate people for guns, but I think she's I'm pretty damn sure, actually, she's passionately against COVID fascism, and she's like pretty conservative in a lot of other things.
Talk with someone from there about what they think of what's going on. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just insane to me looking at this shit.
Cat Chat was watching this right now, I'd probably offer her the link just for the sake of talking about that. But yeah, unfortunately, she's not here at all. Oh well. But yeah, so to sum up this episode of Strike Force, we talked about how the race baiting on Kyle Rittenhouse is absolutely stupid. I mean, race baiting is pretty freaking stupid as a general rule. Like saying that the only reason that people are criticizing LeBron James is because he's a scary black man, Hassan Piker. Or saying that the only reason why you like or dislike Barack Obama is just because he's the first black president. And now, if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, he would definitely be hauled off to jail. When really, people like Andrew Coffey are evidence of there is no if he were black type of argument to be made. Like, again, yeah, Andrew Coffey is going to suffer some sentencing, but that's only because that there are other crimes that he committed outside of the gun charges on him, the violence charges on him that have been ruled as self-defense, and that being possessing a gun while he was a felon, which we would like to see reform to that, and also the drug possession and dealing as well, which we would also like to see reform to that. Ultimately, I don't think he should really get jail time at all, but the laws in our country are the way that it is, and people get jailed for drugs, unfortunately. So I'm sorry about that, and I wish it weren't the case, but it's still like he still proves to be the case that if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, there is in no ways at all a guarantee that he would be in jail for life for, you know, defending himself against Rosenbaum.
I think the best point to make is that if anything, Rittenhouse's claim of self-defense is actually a lot stronger.
Yeah, exactly. And in Rittenhouse's case, he had a whole lot cleaner view of who was attacking him and so forth.
Yeah, one, he didn't have a criminal record. Two, we literally have video proving it. Three, instead of shooting at cops, he shot at three violent felons who've proven in the past that they were incredibly dangerous men. And in case of Gage Dipface, he's probably still a dangerous guy, but less so at least.
Yeah.
Well, we can hopefully the next person he comes across challenges them to an arm wrestling competition.
Yep. 71000. Well, no, we'll get to those chat comments here later. And on the Ghislaine Maxwell subject, we will keep an eye on how that trial is going within the coming weeks. I'll keep on reading up about that.
I just read an interesting update on the Rittenhouse situation. Rittenhouse says that Lynn Wood kind of set him up for that photo with the Proud Boys that a lot of leftists have been using to slander the kid.
Oh, God.
Wasn't I guess I wasn't talking to you. I don't know if I was ever talking to you about it, but I remember like this friend of mine who was like talking about like in fall of 2020 about the claims of election fraud. And I'm like, Lynn Wood is someone who no one should listen to. I said, I think this guy's a crank. And now I'm being vindicated on that belief because Kyle Rittenhouse basically handed that guy his head.
Yeah.
On top of everything else, he was found to murder Lynn Wood's career.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be frank. I did not hear about that story about how Lynn Wood was trying to manipulate Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, we all thought...
he had enough. He raised enough money. He briefly represented him, raised him enough money to make his bail, but left him in prison because he told the kid, "You're safer in prison."
Really?
Really. It actually ended up being Mike Lindell, you know, My Pillow, who ended up bailing him out.
Source me this article, Loudmouth. If this is the case within...
It's his interview with Tucker Carlson. You didn't watch it?
No.
Watch it.
Tucker Carlson, Lynn Wood. That's why I got to search up?
No, Tucker Carlson and Kyle Rittenhouse. He did an interview with him last night.
And Kyle Rittenhouse said that Lynn Wood set me up.
Essentially. And, yeah, also said that he was, like, not allowed to take a shower for an entire month. He was, like, in prison for 87 days. I didn't know he was in there that long. Thought it was, like, I thought it was just there a few weeks.
Fuck, no wonder why he ended up breaking down at multiple times during the trial.
Yeah.
Shit.
87 days in prison for literally nothing except not allowing a worthless pedophile to kill him. It's so disgusting that ever happened.
Yep. Sorry.
There needs to be laws passed that punish rogue prosecutors like Binger. There need to be stricter laws on this to protect self-defense. This should never have gone before a jury.
And on the subject of Lynn Wood, I don't know if there's like any laws that could be justified to be made against what he did to Kyle Rittenhouse, but all the same, what he did to Kyle is just absolutely slimy. Like, I knew that
He's a fucking slime bag. I've been saying that for a long time. No one should listen to that guy. I'm glad that like the right in general have really come around on that guy. Probably one of Trump's dumbest things he ever did as president was ever retweeting that guy.
Ever since that he had absolutely discouraged people just forthright from voting in the Georgia special Senate elections.
Yeah, that pissed me off so much. I remember at the time I was so livid at that guy.
Ever since that moment, I was starting to dislike the guy, but this just makes him look even worse. Worse than I knew him to be beforehand. Yeah, fuck him. Fuck Lynn Wood.
Fuck Lynn Wood, man. And praise to Mike Lindell. He came through for the kid.
Yeah.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
This is the guy who defended Nick Sandmann.
Yeah, Sandmann eventually fired him because I think Sandmann eventually realized the guy was no good.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, cool. I thought I heard something about that. Him, like, trying to disassociate from him.
Yeah, that's what he does, man. He goes to people who are like in a desperate state, and he kind of grifts off them for his success, and he takes advantage of them. It's the kind of person that guy is.
Grift, indeed.
Yeah.
There seems to be a cancer of grifting in modern day politics. I mean, one can make the argument
sometimes, but for Lynn Wood, it's really justified.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a conservative who ever ends up in trouble, don't hire that guy.
Yep. I pray to Jesus that I don't ever get to the point of having to grift, or that I don't ever grift at all.
Right.
Which is why I end up like arguing with my subscriber base as much as I do, because I feel like some of the stuff that they expect of me would be grifting. You want me to do this, but I don't, or say this thing, but I don't really believe it, and I am not convinced to believe it. So if I was to say it, or spout off that kind of rhetoric, I wouldn't believe it. So therefore, I'd be a grifter myself. No way, Jose.
I will say, if you subscribe to me, that I agree with all the things you agree with, and I dislike all the things you dislike. Vote for me.
Yes, even if you start advocating for taking away the gun rights of Muslims, we will flip-flop on that subject and say, yeah, no gun rights for Muslims.
Yes, we'll go wherever the wind blows.
Precisely. Have some no bullshit kind of stupid-ass sophistry to justify why white people get gun rights and Muslims do not.
I don't know. Well, because debates are gay, bro.
Yeah, so off that stupidity anyway, is talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll keep an eye out on that as to how that goes on any further, but it's looking pretty interesting so far with the attitude of the judge and of how that Maxwell is trying to prevent people from getting a key piece of evidence for the further investigation of the global elite. The global elite. I sound like Alex Jones when I say that.
Yeah, but another thing, the prosecutor wanted to use that photo Lynn Wood kind of set Kyle up on as evidence against him, but the judge thankfully didn't allow it.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, not that it's that bad of a knock on Kyle Rittenhouse, but
not at all. I never saw it as a big deal, but it probably was poor optics given his situation, and I mean, certainly isn't evident. I mean, I saw a moron saying, "Oh, he's smiling in a bar, therefore he's a remorseless killer." I'm like, "Fuck off!"
Right?
The fact that the guy smiles after getting out of prison, how dare he?
Mm-hmm.
How dare he be happy for a moment?
And so, to kind of summarize the last subject, that being talking about the COVID fascism in Australia, the live chat hasn't been very active, but I thank you all who have sent your chat comments and on to get updated on the live chat that's been all about the COVID fascism. 71000 says, I can't get the vaccines just due to health reasons, so I guess I'm an anti-vaxxer. Yes, you're a terrible person. You're a terrible anti-vaxxer, sent one. You should toughen up with your personal health reasons and get the vaccine anyways. Otherwise, you'll have this piece of shit Australian politicians try to force a jab in you. And if you die, well, at least you did your country a service. Anyway. LOL. Personally, I would be happy to be called an, air quotes, anti-vaxxer if this guy would leave me alone. Right? Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. We have to deal with both the fascism and the slander at the same time. SideX Talk says this guy deserves to get his shit kicked, referring to the Australian politician.
Oh, yeah.
And 71000.
And Linwood too, though.
Right. We are an equal opportunity face puncher, everybody. We punch both the left and the right whenever it is deemed necessary. And this applies to Linwood and that COVID fascist Australian politician. And by the way, never mind. But in all seriousness, as Sent1000 says, he does have his right to his opinion, but once he touches someone in harm, then we can give him that beat down. Yes,
Correct.
as much as we would like to punch smug, arrogant, power-hungry pieces of crap in the face, in the ultimatum of things, we can't really do it because even if you say, I want to restrict free speech, they still have their free speech to be anti-free speech. As much as we'd like to punch that person for their anti-free speech, it's still within their free speech to say, I hate free speech, and including not get punched for it.
Yeah, sadly, yes.
There was so much speech within my speech there, it leaves people absolutely speechless.
Yeah.
I like some freeze peaches, don't you, Loudmouth? Some frozen
Yes.
peaches? Anyway, so on that note, thank you all for watching this live stream. It's a relatively short one compared to all the rest of my episodes. Actually, it's kind of average, 1.5 hours. And I'd like to thank you very much, Loudmouth, for joining me on this live stream so as to
right.
help get extra in-depth on this.
Man. Good night.
All right, good night, Loudmouth. And hope to see y'all later. And I don't know, maybe I will fully revive this live stream show at this point, since this is like the second Tuesday within 2 weeks' time that I have done a show. But I don't know. Maybe I'll wait till after the holidays at least, till I get back into the full swing of Strike Force. That might be just what I do. But I just mostly wanted to do this because of the whole Andrew Coffey situation and also Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll see of what piques my interest next Tuesday if I want to do an episode of Strike Force. But I still am overall holding by the thing that I said in my one video where I said that I'm discontinuing Strike Force indefinitely. It's just going to be an on and off break anyways. Not that consistent. But hope to see you all later. Stay safe. Have a good night out there. And God bless. And oh, yes. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.